nggak apa-apa. Okay. Yeah, so welcome back to this last day of teaching, talking about teaching strategies. And I hope this one would be helpful because I know UGM has a lot of students. And when I was talking to Bueni, she was also mentioning that large classes was a big issue in UGM. So I thought we do a session about teaching large classes. So let me see if I could do a slideshow. So are you able to see the full screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. I put this here just in case if people who didn't attend yesterday is coming today. Part of the point of this workshop is teaching is challenging. Students are evolving in terms of their needs and just in terms of their behaviors. And so the goal again is one, hopefully you can be more aware of pedagogical techniques, some that you might have used already, especially a lot of you have many teaching experience. But if you're aware of them, you can use them more efficiently. And second, this is a really great opportunity to just see how other people are doing their classes. As Pak Rimawan has mentioned, there's a lot of talk about inputs, but maybe we don't compare outputs in teaching as much as we should. But I thought we could just start with a poll. I'm trying this new poll to see if it works. I'm curious, just as an instructor, what words pop up in your head when you think of a large class? So I'll give you 2 minutes to put in any words you think relate to a large class as an instructor. I see some people typing. Oh, I'm trying to get in and can't myself.
Nggak muncul ya, Mbak?
Let's see. Oh, okay. I had to click. Sorry about that. Interesting. I never used this poll. I wanted to try it because later on I want to talk about polling, and I'm testing free options that are possible. So I see exhausting. Someone says easy. I wonder if it's there's a sentence there, but maybe it's easy, small, learning, interactive. Oh, the number of students is more than 40. Variance, heterogeneity, sea of students, many number of students, challenges in supervising students focused throughout the lecture. Okay, there's interactive. Somebody said interactive there. Okay, I want to ask you to do one more polling. And this other polling, I know I mentioned as an instructor, I'm curious if I ask you the same question, but now as a student, what words do you think they will use to describe a large class? maybe you've heard some of the things that the students have said about large classes. Maybe I could click opportunity to slack off. Okay. Maybe everyone agrees. Oh, noisy. Interesting. So very okay. There's an LOL. I wonder if the LOL, I wonder if we're missing the sentence of the LOL. Oh, grade distribution. Less interactive. Feel safer? Okay. I think that's feel safer. Interesting. Okay. Good. So I'm gonna keep this up. Feel free to add more words if you want, but let me just go back to the previous one. Oh, and just sort of compare. So as an instructor, there's more words that pop up here. There are some words that are a little bit, I guess, showing tiredness from the instructor. So exhaustion, the amount of work for assessing is mounting. The number of students is more than 40, challenges in supervising students. And then from the students' perspective, I mean, we're not students, but you can kind of see that I guess we also don't have like a good, there's some negative words over there. Okay, I can sleep during class, which is true. Some of my, some students still come. There's classes that I don't take attendance, but they come and then they sleep, and I just don't understand why they are coming to class. But okay. So I just wanted to get a sense of how you feel about large classrooms, but one of you had something important to kind of clarify, which is what exactly is considered a large classroom. One person here said the number of students is more than 40. Is that typically a definition that in the UGM context, or?
That's in UGM context karena that's related to the what is that peraturan ya, kayak kita ada internal bahwa di atas 40 itu adalah kelas besar.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's so interesting. What's considered a small class? What's a typical small class? Is it 20 students is possible, or 10 students?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the minimum is I think we have two classes. I mean the regular class or the independent study. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's if you have more than 5, I think that will you can consider as a normal class.
Okay.
Below that will be considered like the independent study.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It depends on the class. If it's an international undergraduate program, if it's less than 5, then the class will be an independent study. But if this is a regular program, then if it's less than 10, it's going to be as independent study. It means that
I see.
we meet 8 out of supposedly 16 meetings every semester.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
more on resources actually, but why we do that because of the allocation of the resources. Because otherwise, if we don't differentiate that'd be a problem.
Okay. So is everyone here teaching a large class in a sense it's above 40? If you can just like raise your hand. Nope, not everybody here teaches a large class.
It also depends on what course you're teaching. If you're teaching like optional and advanced courses, you may be teaching a relatively small class, around 20, 30. But if you're teaching like mandatory courses in early you know, for students in their first year, second year, then you may be teaching a large class.
Okay. Okay. So the biggest is 110 from Pak Gilang. Anyone has ever had bigger than 110?
No, I got 100, you know, several years ago. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, 150 online. Do you still have large classes online? Or this is during the pandemic?
That's only in the pandemic.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. I've taught 360 people, which was fun. Surprisingly, that was kind of fun. Because our principles of macro class at the University of Michigan is 400, like it could go up to 400, and the econ department here can go up to 600. So in Michigan, a small class is 60. So I guess in that, based on that definition, everything is sort of a large class. Okay, good. So that's really interesting because, you know, I was looking at different resources of teaching large classes. It's such a common topic here in the US that there's a lot of resources on teaching large classes. This is a book here, Strategies for Teaching Large Classes Effectively in Higher Education. It has writings from different types of professors, different disciplines, different universities of what they've tried in their large classes. You know, I feel like in Indonesia, especially these big universities, there's a lot of large classes. We should, or you guys should make some sort of book like this because it's just so useful. I was trying to look at resources in Indonesian, but couldn't find any resources on large classes, which is unfortunate because probably there's something very Indonesia specific about the large classes. But I'm going to take some examples from the book. Michigan has very good resources on teaching large classes because, again, we have too many large classes. There's some from Cornell and Illinois, and throughout the PowerPoint, there's a couple of other resources as well. So I was thinking of going through kind of 4 different things. Now, I do want to say that a lot of the tips today maybe are more geared towards the system here. I'm not sure. So if something doesn't make too much sense, just like let me know, or maybe we can discuss what works in a different situation. So just keep that in mind. Organizing maybe for like a 50 student class is a little bit easier potentially than kind of a 400 student class. But if you could do the 400 student class, you can definitely do the 50 student class. And so I kind of divided today's topic into sort of 4. Organization, engagement and participation, assessment and grading, and using resources efficiently. The 2 very end here, it might be more discussion with all of you, but I'm also happy to share like what we do here, because I think what eventually is happening now is we're moving towards a lot of technology to help us make teaching large classes less exhausting. But to be able to do this, again, you need to have access to some resources and some softwares, which I'll be happy to share with you because I think they're so interesting. Maybe we can have like an Indonesian version at some point because it really helps teachers. But okay, so let's start with kind of organization. With many students, there is an increased probability of confusion under or unclear expectations, right? And so one thing that I've learned very quickly teaching sort of 340 students is that organization matters a lot. So when I first started teaching at Michigan, I was actually a course director. So a course director means that they help the main instructor lectures. I sometimes teach a discussion section, but the main material is taught by a different professor. I don't know if there's anything kind of a similar concept in Indonesia, like a dosen asisten, but not a student, like supposed to be a bit more senior than a student.
No, we don't have we do have we call it graders here, basically teaching assistant. They're most likely to be undergraduate students or master
I
students.
see.
But they're not allowed to grade exams. They're only allowed to grade assignments,
I see.
call it quizzes, which is one thing that differs with the US context. I think teaching associate or teaching assistant, particularly masters and PhD students, can actually grade papers. But here,
I see.
only lecturers can only grade papers. So you can imagine the load for reviewing exam papers at the end of the semester.
Okay. Maybe we can come back to it. I can tell you how we managed to do it better. And I don't know if it's a solution that might work or not, but okay. Okay, good to know. So I was a course director, and actually at Yale, I am also a course director for a couple of professors as well, because I think some of the professors here, like they really just want to teach, and all the organization they leave for someone else. And so I'm that person who sort of helps them with all the organization. So when I talk about organization, it's really simple things. And some of you who have taught large classes probably know this already. But simple things like, how do you make announcements to students? Are the structure of the course consistent? Do you need to announce things in multiple places, or is everything in one place? Where can students see where they are in terms of the class content? Where do they go to do readings? Who should they contact if they're having issues? Especially during COVID times, many instructors were kind of scrambling, trying to make sure everything is kind of in one place. So just one other question. So on UGM, you guys do have a learning management system, right? I think.
Yeah.
For the course websites and everything.
We do have what's called ELOC.
Okay. Good.
Like Blackboard equivalent.
Yeah, I remember Blackboard. We're now in Canvas namanya.
Oh, Canvas as in, the Canvas application, or it's a different Canvas? Oh, it's Canva.
I will show you, actually. I will show you. Oh, and yeah, let me click on ELOC afterwards. But I can show you what Canvas looks like. And I can also even show you kind of my organizations of my class and other classes. So one thing that, so this is also like an interesting sneak peek of different systems, I think. How do I share? Okay. Oops. Okay, you can see my Canvas, I think. So this is my Yale Canvas dashboard. So one thing that I've learned and gotten a bit better of is really to try to keep the interface as simple as possible. Maybe Alak is similar. I'm interested to sort of hear. So let me share what I kind of do here, and then if someone could sort of explain what they do to try to make announcements or make things sort of simple using the management system, that would be great. But let me show you, this is one of my main class that I teach. I only try to put 3 things here that they could click, and I actually try to put everything on the weekly course homepage. So I don't want to email students too much, because otherwise they think if I keep emailing them, all the information is not as important. So I only email when things are important. And I tell them that every Monday I have this announcement page, and you need to kind of read what's happening for that week. So everything is sort of here. And then I kind of have the lecture slides, the files and any readings all kind of here. And then you can kind of close that. So I try to just make it as simple as possible while also making the announcement system like all in one place. I don't know if you have experience. It could be that you're very organized, but I've had experience with other instructors who are not as organized. And it's just a lot of emails, a lot of confusion, and students are disgruntled as well when they can't figure out where things are. So in mine, I also don't allow like a files folder because I think it's messy and I'd rather them click everything here. But I will show you what another instructor does because I have access to multiple courses because of I am a course director for a couple of them. So this is another one. And this instructor he's super simple. We can get rid of all of this, but he doesn't like changing too much of this course management system. And so for him, he just puts everything in the syllabus and updates the syllabus each time. So he tells them all the readings and links are here with the dates, like just click on this and all the assignments and everything else are going to be in files. So this is how he structures things. Yeah, so can anyone share about their experience with sort of ELOC and how they're trying to manage or make class organization a bit better?
Pak Gilang kan punya ELOC.
Use
Pak Gilang.
Yeah,
Katanya expertnya Pak Gilang ternyata.
It's actually not as organized as Ardina's Canva. And also ELOC is actually you can customize ELOC quite significantly, but sometimes given the time we don't have enough resources to do that. But this is just it's mostly like postings of resources that students can access. So for example, there is this chapter 1 video. I could actually embed YouTube here. I just found out how to do it, but in this particular case, this is just what I did. So it's really just posting all of the files that could be relevant. You can actually do announcements as well in ELOC. That's something that thinking to do given your insights. But yeah, this is mostly just a list of basically files. The more advanced one, I think it's the microeconometrics one, because now you can embed your video, your YouTube into the assessment. The only issue with this ELOC is that it's quite slow, and for heavy like page, it's gonna load up quite slow. So yeah, this is just an example of ELOC, but yeah.
Interesting. So it is kind of so when I was in Michigan and we did use Canvas, but it looks different. They're a module-based system, so it's very like listy, with like a header, right? So this is kind of has that okay,
fine.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we have so many different ways you can change your course page too, and I think it's the same with ELOC as well. Some professors are much fancier than others, and like I said, my other professor just wants everything in the syllabus and sort of like that's it. But I mean, it's good. It's good that you're kind of recognizing the different ways students are interacting with this system. I'll actually show you. So let me share back my where is it? My screen. So one thing that instructors are doing here is they're realizing that their management system is quite important, and they're asking students of how are they whether it's like helpful for their learning or not. And now at Yale, we also, and also at Michigan, we have a lot of training on how to use this Canvas system. Does the department, or we will get have a team that helps with the ELOC stuff, like if there's technical IT issues?
Unfortunately, no, at the moment.
Okay.
There is a it's called PIKA, Pusat Inovasi and something academic, I think. So they're basically in the forefront of say learning innovations and stuff. But I don't think like they're into the technical details. We do have our own information system team. We can consult with them, but they're not that expert in ELOC, for example.
Yeah. No, it's hard to know a system very well. I think even when I was in Michigan, like there are things in Canvas that sometimes we didn't know until like two years in, and if we knew before, it would save like a lot of time. Like simple things like you can make an announcement and turns out you can state the date when you want the announcement to come out. And so a friend of mine always have announcements in weird hours, and so she would always have to like be ready. So yeah, there's a lot of I'm sure with ELOC too, there's a lot of things that you could do. It's just maybe the information is sort of not there, or the team to kind of explain it might not be there. But it's okay. What I want to show you here is there's been a little bit more of an effort on giving tutorials to professors of how to use the learning management system better, and also getting feedback from students. So this is an example of feedback from Wake Forest University. Of their sample, of course, I think they managed to survey every undergrad, but I think only 12% submitted this. So we know that there might be some sort of bias in the data collection, but you can kind of see the different words that students mention concerning the course organization. And also here are some specific sort of feedback. So having one spot to go for all my relevant class information was a welcome change. I found that professors who put in the time to clearly organize their Canvas page made it much easier for me to stay organized and learn more efficiently. And then this person said, not all teachers do this, but when every teacher takes advantage of a setting a due date through Canvas or to-do list automatically, we see an up-to-date list of what needs to be done and when. You know, if you are teaching a large classes and you're getting like certain types of emails, and there's sort of a pattern of that emails, whether it's the students always forget the due dates, the students keep asking about the quiz or keeps asking about an assignment, that means that there's an issue, right? And, you know, sometimes it's as simple as, so this semester in the syllabus, I mentioned that the homework is due every Tuesday, right? Easy. Homework is due every Tuesday. I always get some emails of them asking the due dates, and then somebody said, can you just put the due date somewhere? And I was annoyed at first because, guys, every Tuesday, it's not that hard. But then I kind of gave up and I start writing sort of the dates on the homework. Before I didn't, because I want to just reuse the same homework. So you don't know with your students, like there might be like these little things. When you notice you getting a lot of emails, especially in these large classes, maybe there's something in terms of organization and announcements that you can kind of do. Any thoughts or questions, or do you have stories of emails that you managed to fix? Nope, good. Okay. I mean, that's all I wanted to kind of say about our course organization. When we were in 400 students, like this course structure was super structured because we want the students, there's no surprises to students. Because one issue is going to be 20 emails from someone. So all the information has to be put in a really nice syllabi or Canvas page, and everything runs in a routine. We do 5 lectures and then a quiz, 5 lectures and then the quiz. If you do an exam, we do it at another place. So that's sort of what I've learned, is just being super, super organized actually helps the students a lot. Okay, let me pause. Are there any questions just on if you want to know anything about Canvas tool here, or if you want to share something or have a question before we move on to engagement and participation?
Assessment and creating using organizations.
Oh, yes, Bueni. I'm not sure if you're reading things or if you wanted to ask a question. Okay. Oh. Mm-hmm.
No, just try to make sure the next topic is engagement and participation.
Yes, it is engagement and participation. We're actually going to talk a lot about different types of engagement and discussion in the active learning session after this. But I do want to say a little bit about engagement and participation in a large class, because people think that because it's a large class, you can't have engagement. That's actually one of the words that you put up there is students can disengage. They don't have to pay attention, right? Some of the strategies here is actually from the book that I mentioned before, and it's a chapter called Large STEM Courses, Education by Engagement. And the author of that chapter thinks about engagement maybe in a more broader way. It's true that, in a large class, you're not necessarily going to have like a lot of questions, although I have a lot of questions from the audience, but maybe it's the way we define engagement that is sort of the problem. So she has a definition of engagement as any activity that captures the attention in a way that makes the learning process a more meaningful experience, right? And so there's a couple of ways you can actually do this. So if you look at the different, all the websites that I put in this slide, and if you look at the book, like there's actually one main advice that people say again and again, and it's the advice of share who you are, be personable as much as you can, and also know your audience. Because if you're a professor, and a lot of people do this just because of habit, like they go in and then they just start the lecture right away without kind of any small talks. It really makes the students even more of, okay, he's just gonna lecture, he doesn't really care who I am. I'm just going like, this is the place where I could, I don't know, sleep or not engage. But if you do have a professor who talks about their passion, try to understand who the class are before the class starts. It changes the environment a little bit. So the author of this chapter, I think one strategy that she does is she always tries to track down the different majors in the class. So who here is an economics majors, who here is like a STEM major. He asks them to like raise their hand and then count, and then he writes them down. He mentions that writing it down is actually quite important because it shows that you care about your students. So simple questions about majors, sometimes icebreaker questions. So I've done a lot of word clouds in classrooms, just to get a feel of the class. And sometimes the students do like that because maybe a lot of the word cloud gives a lot of positive words, what they ate for breakfast. These little things give a little sense of community and kind of just a connection. And I think that helps with engagement a lot. So a couple of things here that I wrote is that, it's important to ask the students directly. I've done strategies where I give students note cards. If it's 20, I guess I can do that. Give students note cards, tell them like, why do you think economics is important or not important? And then I collect them in the end. In a large class, people have used pre-course surveys. So what you can do is, hey, email the students before the class starts and say, could you answer some questions for me? Like explaining like, why are you taking economics? Or why do you think this class is interesting? And you'll be, as an instructor, seeing the response of students and knowing them a little bit more will also help you with creating that engaging environment in the first place. So that's kind of the first like big tip that most books and websites would tell you to do. Does anyone have an icebreaker story that they've tried, or a poll that they've tried, or any interesting activity to kind of break the ice?
Is it still suitable for the undergraduate student or master students? Because we only have 2.5 hours maximum, or maybe less than. I think icebreaker is suitable for senior high school, junior high school.
So
do you have any example for that?
Sure. Let me think. So actually in the US, we still do a lot of icebreakers at the master's level and at the undergrad level. Maybe master is less depending on the instructor and depending on the what is it called? The topic, I guess. But I did a lot of icebreakers during all my classes in Michigan, and even juniors, I still do it too. In the master's class, so the dean of the school here, he teaches fundamentals of economics course to master students. And he's the dean, so he's very senior. His most famous icebreaker is that before class, he tells the students like a favorite place in New Haven, because a lot of these students are new, coming from different countries or different states. So he shares something new about New Haven, and then he asks one student to also share something that they find interested in New Haven. So it's very short. It just takes like 3 minutes, but it really breaks the ice. And it's easier, make them calm. It doesn't, you go straight to the lecture, they're like writing already, and then they're stressed. So I do see a difference with professors who use icebreakers in the beginning versus professors who don't use icebreakers in the beginning. And you can even make the icebreakers related to class. But in this example, like the dean, like the icebreaker has nothing to do with economics. It was just favorite food. So I don't know. I know the econ department there loves coffee. I don't know if the students like coffee too much, but coffee related, culinary related, just to, again, make that connection with students. But that's a very good question, Bueni. Other thoughts? Maybe you might disagree, but which is okay, because I don't know. Maybe it is not appropriate there.
Yeah, in my mind, icebreaker is something like a short activities. So like all the students should stand up and then doing something. It's
Oh,
not,
I see. Yeah, that
it's
seems
not only
hard.
yeah, it's not only talking about sorry, but maybe like an activities in the class, something like that.
I mean, you can do that too, but that one's difficult to do in the big class. But I'm going to show you an activity that I do with my students. It's 40 students, so kind of large, that gets them discussing a lot. Okay, good. Other questions? Are you good here? Try it for one of your class. Maybe you might be surprised. But I also do have like a horror story. I don't know if you want to hear of the icebreaker horror story that I did in class. I can laugh about it now, but just a warning of what could happen. So I was teaching the 400 student class, and I think we were talking about labor markets. Okay, so the icebreaker that I did, which is a word cloud, asked the students like, what type of jobs are you interested in after you graduate? Simple icebreaker. And this isn't the first icebreaker. This is like I've done multiple icebreakers before this one, and usually everything is fine. But for some reason, this class, there was a kid who was just trying to be a jerk, and he wrote stripper. And there was a big, so everything is under the big screen. And because that was the first one that popped up, it showed up very big. So that happened. That was my horror icebreaker story. And at that time, there are ways you can try to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen. But at the time, I was just like in front of the screen. I was like, oh, what do I do with this? Do I be mad? Do I make a joke out of it? But anyway, so that could happen. Be careful with the type of questions you choose as icebreakers, or if you use word clouds. But it's a 400 anonymous student. But that class, I managed to come up with a joke later on related to labor markets, and the students laughed. So I was like, okay, it worked out. I regained my standing with the class. Okay. So strategy 1, try to kind of smooth the transition when you're in the beginning, when you're lecturing a class. The second kind of strategy that people sort of use is it's very hard. You want to break your classes into pieces, because it's very hard for a student to pay attention for an hour and 15 minutes. Well, in Yale, it's an hour and 15 minutes. A class period in UGM, like how many hours is it?
It's actually 2.5. But I think
2.5. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
But I think most of us breaks the class into 2.
Okay, perfect. Because you already know that 2.5 hours students' attention span sort of breaks. There's actually research, and it has been cited. They say the attention span of an adult on average is about 15 minutes. But some people say, I mean, we're economists here, so the methodology for them doing this research might not be very good. So, take it with a grain of salt. But if you think about your students, there's so much that they can take before they need a break. So even in lectures, you want to try to come up with small activities that you can do just for like a few minutes in between sort of this big lecture chunks. Things that I kind of like to do a lot, especially in the principals class where they're learning the basics, is to do polling to check the students' understanding. You could also, if you want students to kind of So one thing that I like to do too is instead of a cold call, a warm call. I remember Bakisha was mentioning if you randomly cold call people, they get stressed. So a warm call is like you walk around and then you tap on a student like, hey, I'm going to ask somebody to talk. Is it okay? Can you volunteer? Is it okay if I choose you? And you've already discussed with your peers the answer. So it calms them down a little bit. So that's what a warm call is. And usually they're more confident and they will talk because they know that they're going to talk. So that's kind of another strategy. Another strategy that I've tried to do is I have activities where I do make them write on a slide or a document, and then I discuss what they wrote in class. So something kind of like what I made the instructors did yesterday. And sometimes it is still possible to create groups during class or before class. And all these activities, they don't take too much time, depending on which type of activity. So let me give you an example of one of my activity that I did in class. And I could also, so this is an activity, I was talking about what is development. I was talking about the different stakeholders in development. This is an Eleanor Ostrom case study. There's two different types of irrigation systems, one from the farmers and another one from donors. And the one from donors are really good management irrigation system. I explained to them that it turns out the very good irrigation system that is paid for donors from donors and cost a lot, but it's very fancy, only managed to work 11% of the time, right? So then I explained to them why this is, and I make them do this. I say, hey, we've learned a couple of different terminologies. You learned about the stakeholders. You learned about different reasons why countries grow. I put all of those words here, and I tell them, tell me what concepts can be used to diagnose this scenario. And then I make them talk for like 4 minutes. And I tell them that they have to put their answers here. So you can kind of see what their answers are. And they're actually quite good. So this is a 40 student class. I made them sit in groups. I actually rearranged the table, and 2 tables I put into one, and then I make them do this in groups. You might not be able to do that in your classroom, but I kind of did it in mine. And then because I have the slides, I can say, hey, group 7, can you sort of explain to me what you've written? And then I could go to group 4 or group 2 or group 3. This is also another way to make sure you're hitting different parts of your class to talk. And it's also a little bit low stress for them because they've, discussed it already. So they can just kind of read the slides. But they actually really like this activity, and they were quite engaged. And then we had kind of a good discussion. And I see them start making these connections. Remember, yesterday we talked about how connections is very important. So this is kind of where the connections start building. Okay, so any questions about this example, or if you do want to share your own example on a large class activity, that would be great. Let me pause here.
Yes. May I?
Yeah, Pak Bagus. Yes.
Yes, so sorry, I just joined because disambing. Yeah, you see,
Yeah.
In my class, so I'm not sure it is this good or not, but in my class, so I start my class by asking prognose what will happen with your life in 20 years from now, what will you do?
Oh,
So
that's an
then
interesting
try
question.
Then that's my first week of the class. Then I spend so much time to, give them motivation and connect this class is what might we can do in this course with their future, whether we can help or not. For sure, we cannot help to be stripper with that, they said. But with this, we try to connect uh, what is it, what they want to be. But some of them, they don't have anything to do in 20 years. They I want to be housewife. I want to, yeah, that's also fair. But then some of them have motivation to do, what they want to be. Either they want to be, I want to work in international institution, I want to talk to Bank Indonesia, I want to talk to OJK, whatever they want to be. Yeah, then I will connect this class. And then that's part of the examples that I try to make my class to be more active. And the second, so whenever I, before I teach them about regressions, I start by bringing the reality of life. Like, let's see our, your consumption behavior. Every month, how much you got to, you know, assuming it is income, then how much you spend it, then put other variables for that. Then we make a survey using, Google form. Then by this, all this is your data. So, but also try to say, look, this is a survey that's, very basic example about survey. And then some of them, some of the respondents are stupid, but but then it turned out, let's say our class about 50, but there is always every semester, there will be 2 or 3 or 5 students being stupid. They don't follow the instructions. Then say, look, this is the problem. And so if you do a survey, then you have to make sure to do data cleaning, for instance. Just like, very brush up, like, you try to do data cleaning. Then from this, then we bring this like example, real examples about, their gender, their income, their whatever. Then we bring this to the, like bring this to the OLS concept. Then that makes sense for them because that, oh, this is my consumption behavior. So I can tell you the marginal profit to consume in my class in most cases about 0.8, 0.9, something like that. And then that's connect with their life. So it's then after this, then we bring this, all the class. Then we try to make this, as close as possible to the reality. For instance, when I try to explain for them, like logic model, for instance, then we bring this their data that they gave them, because one of them, whether they are in Indonesia, when someone having girlfriend, boyfriend, they call it taken. So then we ask one of the questions, are you taken? Then someone say yes. Then we try to connect this, whether taken has correlation with your income or your expenditure.
That's so
something
funny.
like that. Then, that's by this, then we can, bring up, oh, this is how, make this, I'd like to say this is like demystifying things, connect to the reality. But
yeah,
we cannot use all of this. Let's say I try to make it, time series. Maybe that's not possible to use that data. But we try to, at least, more than 25% of the cases use their examples. And another maybe last bit is that I try to, whenever we have, either calculating, just like in a simple calculation, then I try to ask them, make it 2 or 2% to discuss, with the other side, because in here, the sitting row is in one row by row. So there's talk to your neighbor, 1, 2 or 2, 3%, then they discuss. Then after that, what is the answer? Then they try to say it. Maybe this, like, not very active, but I think this is, at least they try to make this into their connect. In their own context.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. Those are like really great examples. I've never thought of, I've done some surveys where I collect data from the class and then we can analyze it. But for an experiment, I never thought doing it on OLS. I think that's such a clever idea. Everybody does OLS, so maybe that's something that we could all try. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share others before I kind of move to the next thing? Oh, but Pak Bagus, I also wanted to say, so you had an interesting icebreaker, that example that you had. I actually hate trying to figure out icebreakers to ask students because it's so hard. And at some point, it's just like, I don't know, what movies do people watch? And but I've seen someone at the education department here at Yale. They actually have the students come up with an icebreaker. So they pick 2 students and then tell the students, like, come up with an icebreaker for next week, and then we all do the icebreaker. And then he said the students come up with better icebreakers than the professors. So that's a strategy that maybe you could try as well. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think most students, they are active if we give them chance that, as I said to you yesterday, because I admit that my class is hard, and then I try to put standard,
Yeah.
and then most cases students miss their, the what is it? They miss the basic because, maybe in the previous semester they don't take their class seriously. That, maybe this, kind of thing. Then I try to connect them, but again, because Indonesian, they are not very active. But there are some students, like Mbak Kisah said, and some students are active, but that's okay. But because at least they can listen from those who are active students, and when they persuade them to be active, either call one.
Oh no, Pak Bagus, I think your voice disappeared.
Pak Bagus.
Okay. Okay.
Hilang suara.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it is very difficult. Well, I don't know. When I was teaching the Mbak Kisha's class, I did see students talk quite a bit. I actually thought that the class was I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was teaching Yale students and the UGM students. I mean, in terms of participation, it was actually quite similar, to be honest. I didn't see necessarily that one is more active than the other, except the morning class. Because I taught in UGM the morning class and the afternoon class. The afternoon class was very similar in terms of engagement with the Yale students. The morning class were more quiet. And I don't know. My dad said maybe they haven't had breakfast, so they're more quiet. So maybe I don't know what was the problem there. But yeah, it's interesting that this question of the students are not as active. I don't know if it is because it's the Indonesian culture or not. I don't know. We can discuss this more. I'm very curious of this question now. But we have about sort of 8 minutes or 10 minutes. I'm actually I want to talk a little bit about grading because I know that's such I think a big pressure point maybe for the lecturers there, right? So can I, well, I don't know. I actually wanted to show you kind of the grading management system that we've end up doing now that has helped a lot. And then we're not going to have enough time, but maybe we can continue the discussion like after a break. Because it's just so amazing. Like, not everybody at Yale uses it, but even the business school now is contacting me asking like, oh, can you teach us how to use this? Because they're also having issues with their large classes. So you can still see my internet browser, right? I think. Oh, sorry, you cannot see my internet browser. So let me share this one. You can see my internet browser now.
Yes.
Okay. There is a possibility to sign up for free, so maybe this is something you could see how far you can get from the free version. But we use this tool called Gradescope. So why we use Gradescope? I actually have, let me see. I actually did this talk for the teaching center here. Sorry, one sec. Let me see if I could share this screen. So I'm going to explain to you how we did grading before Gradescope and after Gradescope for a large class. So this is a class of 360 students. We have 6 teaching assistants and we have 3 exams. And let's say, I guess in Indonesia, we don't have the 6 teaching assistants, so we have the instructors that have to grade the exam. But the exam consists of 12 multiple choice and then 2 to 3 parts essay question. So it's still quite a lot. So what do we do? For the multiple choice questions, we use Scantrons. I'm hoping in Indonesia you guys do the same. Grading was outsourced to a graduate team teaching of 2. You scan and they run Stata codes to figure out which one is correct. And then the grading team give us back our results. So this part, it's outsourced. So it takes a week, but it's fine. We don't have to do anything. But it is hard on the grading team, and the code and the Stata and the scanning machine is so old, it broke a couple of times, and then we have to tell the students that, wait, we can't have your grades out yet because of this issue. Now, after using Gradescope, so Gradescope is a system where you can scan all the exams, you can scan in bulk. So I have all my papers. I scan it in bulk. It takes maybe 2 hours to scan everything. And then I upload it to a system. But what's amazing about this system is that it uses AI to get the name of the student's writing and then match it with the student. So you upload it and you assign it to a student, it takes like less than an hour to sort of get 350 students up. And then you grade the multiple choice with AI, and it just takes half an hour to grade this with AI. So the multiple choice was done amazingly. For the multi-part essays, before we had 2 TFs, grade like 1 question. The TFs had all of these stack of papers. They had to switch it around. They need to flip to get to the question. They need to make sure exam was lost. And sometimes this happened, which is a mess. One of the TFs, cat got stuff on the exam. You know, some of these things happen. And then you need to switch stacks because another person is I, as an instructor, cannot check the progress of the students. And then problematic answers need to be put in a separate stack given to me. And then you have to return it to the students. This was just a lot, and it was a lot of annoyance handling papers. With Gradescope, kind of what we did, everything was already scanned, right? The TF, so Gradescope allows you to grade just by, it allows you to grade by just clicking through the rubric. So let me show you what that looks like. So let's go back to this system. So something like this, right? You have you have rubrics already on the right, and all you need to do is click on it, or you can press 1 or 2 in your keyboard. The beautiful thing about this too is that if you decide you want to change the number, you can do that. Like I can make this, I realize, oh, 10 is too much. Maybe I'll do 9 instead. You just change it to 9 and automatically everything before kind of changes to 9. if the TF found something problematic, it just flags it, and I could open it right away and see what is wrong. So it's such an amazing sort of system. It works with bubble sheets. You can actually do code too. I've never used it, but apparently you can. You can do exams and you can do homework. And afterwards, you get the Excel sheet of all the different of the grade, but also you have a couple of statistics. So for example, here, you can get statistics of how the class is doing. So right now, a lot of instructors are starting, especially large classes in Yale and a couple of other universities, are switching to kind of this grade scope type grading system. Here you can see University of Chile is sort of there too. And it's just been a lifesaver and reduced so much work for the instructors. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that. Do we have any questions? Maybe I can see if there's one or two questions, and then we can take a break about this system.
Yeah, Ardina, how good is Gradescope in assisting us grading like essay questions? Do they have limitations on that, or they can actually grade essay questions with, say, I'm not sure, like a prompt that we prepare, in hand. And I'm guessing that this is only for English for now, but I was just wondering whether it's also available in other language as well.
So it depends. So the prompts, so it uses AI. So essay questions, you still have to come up with the rubric yourself, and you do have to like grade, right? Like on what you're looking for. But like something like this, they use like handwritten recognition. So if you tell them that you want the word, I don't know, dosen, and you just write dosen, it's actually very good at getting it. But it also shows you, like, so it says, this is what we recognize as dosen, and then it gives you pictures for you to just glance and check, like, oh, it's all dosen, good. Sometimes there's something that it doesn't understand, and then it will tell you. But the nice thing about Gradescope too is that you can even add comments in addition to the rubrics. And if a student finds a mistake, they could easily, like through the system, say, oh, why is this wrong? This is supposed to be okay. You get an email and then you can just check and then, oh, this is wrong, fix it. And then the grade fixes immediately. So again, when you have so many students and if there's regrade request, I've actually have gotten less regrade requests because of this, because we're also transparent with how we are grading them. I wanted to show you like my course, but because there's students' names, it would be hard for me to show. But maybe I could try to find something without students' name, and then you can sort of see what it looks like. But okay. Maybe we take a break and then we can just continue if there is other questions on this, and then move on to the next active learning topic.
I have one.
Okay. Sure. Yes, Pak Bagus. Yeah.
So I personally use, I built on my own system for the grading. For the exam,
perfect.
for
Maybe.
the quiz, pop quiz. So I have a set of questions, then I put this and then put random numbers. Then this set of questions will be coming, in certain weeks. Either quiz 1, quiz 2, etc. But for the essay, then I have essay or whatever paper is written, then I have to do it in person. But if we use Gradescope and we don't persuade students to use AI, but then we grade with AI, what is the issue of the morality?
Yeah, the ethical.
Not bad.
Yes. This is so we actually have workshops here where instructors discuss AI. And it really depends on the instructor. I don't think there's necessarily I don't think there's necessarily like a right or wrong answer. So the AI that Gradescope uses is an AI of recognition. They don't grade essays trying to, compare it to like another writing or something on the web. We have to do that manually. What they make easier is recognizing names, so we don't have to shuffle through all the papers and inputting the grade. They recognize like letters, A, B, C, D, E. So that's how AI is sort of used in Gradescope. So in terms of ethics, I don't necessarily think it is a problem because for students who are cheating with AI, they're using AI to like create the essay, right? But again, that's sort of my reasoning, and that might be different depending on different professors. We have a professor here who does not like the AI use at all. And we check whether they use AI or not, even though we don't know how valid it is. And we do penalize if you use AI. But then I have another professor that I work with, and she said it's okay to use AI. And she tells students, you can use AI, but if it's wrong, you are responsible for it to be wrong. And sometimes it is wrong. So it's two different kind of thoughts on this. But I do think Gradescope is more about recognizing like a sentence and not like creating something. The rubric is still your own rubric. But okay, should we take a 9-minute break and then we can ask more questions after this?
Okay, thank you, Ardina.
Okay, okay. I'll see you in a little. Oh, yes, Bueni?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let me see if I can find a Gradescope example live. Okay. Let's wait one more minute. Well, I don't know if anybody's here.
I'm back.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, pendek istirahatnya. But maybe while we're waiting a few minutes, since we're talking about icebreakers, can you put in the chat what aspects of grading that you most dislike? And I'll put something too.
Loh, Pak Gilang udah sampai situ.
Iya,
Tertangkap kamera lewat lewat di bawah.
kena CCTV kayaknya tadi nih.
I lost the link. Can I have
yes.
the link again, please?
Yes, I will put the link here. Okay, actually, I want to give you the link, well, the Gradescope link. There's also a very nice, they have very good video tutorials. And if you see some of those videos, you can also get a sense of how things are graded. Let's see. But I found a solution. Let me see. 1 second. So here is a link to, here's a link. So this one's a link to kind of videos of how to get started with Gradescope. So I see the time is an issue. The handwriting is an issue. I hate the handwriting. Yeah, same here. When I've been, yeah. And turns out my teaching assistant, because I sometimes still grade because I wanted to see how the students do. And I tell him, why do you grade so fast? Because it's much slower for me. And he said, oh no, the AI thing does help me to recognize the handwriting. They're very good at it. And I'm like, oh, I still don't know how to do it, but apparently they know how to use it to help grading that way. But okay, let me go back to my screen. Let me give you a demonstration just because, again, grading is such a pain point for a lot of instructors. It's a pretty important topic. So what I have over here, when I sign up for Gradescope, and so you would be able to do this too after you sign up, they give you like an example class. So this is their example class. And from this example class, you can kind of see what things look like. So for example, we can click on the bubble sheet exam. And then usually what you do with the bubble sheet exam is that, you get a template bubble sheet for your class. You scan everything, right? You give Gradescope the answer key. You tell them how you want to grade, exact, partial, either. It has so many options. It's like amazing. And then manage scans. Let me see if I could. Oh no, let's do manage scans. You put in the PDF. These are fake names, so it's okay, and it's not my class, but they assign it to a student. So they read the name of the student and they could assign it, and you're good to go. So you can manage the submission. You can see like things are matched or not. And then you can see there's a place where you can put like where the version is. It'll match the version as well. So if there are ones that they can't read the name, it will tell you here. So then in terms of grading submission, they grade it automatically, and all you need to deal with is the ones that you're uncertain with. So uncertain marks. So they think this is A. They think this is A and C. So this is not A and C. This is C, and then you can confirm, and then everything's graded, right? So for bubble marks, it's very, very good. Let's try economics. I actually don't know what this economics exam is. So no one in the chat said that the part of grading they hate is inconsistencies. So I hate trying to be consistent because it takes a lot of time to make sure that the rubric is consistent and I'm grading things the same way. And there's no way for me to go back to change things. So that's what I don't like. With GradeScope, you're able to grade per question. So let's try their supply and demand. Okay. So this is a one where the students can say increase, decrease. And let's say we want to grade individually. Okay, let's say we grade individually. So if you grade individually, you can add a rubric as you go. Like maybe yang pertama salah, or this one yang kedua salah, or another rubric yang could be both salah. And then you can kind of click depending on what you see. I'm just making this up. Later on, you can actually check siapa aja yang answer 1, siapa aja yang answer 3. You can also check like, you can make point adjustments if you want, and you can add other comments if you want, and you can also even make a comment here so the students can sort of see. So it's a really, really nice way to sort of grade. But another thing that GradeScope can do is that you can grade by group, I think. Let's see. Let's see if we can grade by group. So sometimes you can grade by group and it's like a text fill in the blank. So if you're looking for the word Australia, it's going to try to find the word Australia. I don't know if it works here. Maybe it's trying to find the group and this is not the correct question to do that. Let's see. It's grouping something. Okay. But yeah, this is kind of the setting. Oh, 15 answer confirm. Okay. So you can group things too. If it's a word, they'll try to find that word. So people who can't, for the dosen yang can't read the handwriting, they're actually very good at doing the handwriting, and you can confirm and you can grade and everything is good. But let me give you, I kind of blocked the name, I think, but this is my class. This is some sort of like quiz, but it's sort of essay. So here the student was explaining like India's growth patterns, and then we can sort of choose here. My teaching assistant added examples of why things are wrong. And I think I have another one. Oh, I kind of close it. Oh, here's another one that we did. So I managed to get, if you want to be fair to all your students and if you're worried of bias, you can also grade anonymously. So I click anonymous grading, and then you can't see who the student is, and then you can try to be better. So a student can sort of see, students can sort of see like where they get things wrong, and you can explain things. But yeah, so any questions on this?
So basically, grade scope can, what is that? That's this can be used for multiple choice and essays, and well, that's because I'm using very traditional way because my for the exam I use multiple choice and then make answer sheet. It's one page, A B C D E. That's
Yeah.
I have set of questions, minimum 2 set of questions. In most cases, 3 set of questions. Type set A, type set B, set C. This is randomized. The question will between sets, so they cannot follow the next student's answer. And then for the essay, then we have to do it manually. But anyway, and that in most cases I put this for the essay for the tugas for the assignment, etc. But for the exam, just very traditional, just a plastic transparency, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's that's just the the template. Then where it is how many.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's very traditional, but but it works. But I think with this maybe that's new things that we haven't tried that, especially for the maybe it might be useful for the AC, maybe maybe it's useful for my case.
I mean, I've used it for everything because, again, I don't like losing exams. Sometimes it happens because we have 400 students. Somehow there's one. Well, it never happened to me, but another instructor, it happens like one exam is missing and then you have 400. And actually, when we have 400 students for Scantrons, we can't return it to the students because there's no way to return them. And so even the students don't know if the instructor graded correctly or not. So it was just a mess. But yeah.
But one thing I would like to share maybe with my colleagues here. For my case, all the exam is what's it? We only put numbers. So we instruct them not to write name. So that's to make impartial. So that's I practiced this for the last 20 or 25 years in my class. So, everyone is graded impartially. So we only know their mark at the end. So we put this in the Excel. So and then but we only know their name when we are about to transfer this mark to the university system.
That's really great. Like we didn't have a system like that until Gradescope came. And so people who are worried about bias, I think it was one of the bias and inconsistencies. It was one of the reasons there's a lot of movement now into Gradescope. So it's great that you do it manually. But yes, Parima.
Yeah, just share about the terrible handwriting that sometimes we need to read, and we have to read that it's just terrible, and my handwriting is also terrible actually. So what I did is I would put mark I and then announce it in a class, or to those who has an I, just please contact me. And then afterward, what I did is just they of course they contacted me via WhatsApp or anything. I just scan the what is that, the sheet, and then return it to them and ask them to write down in Word or anything, and then return back to me.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And because you scan it, they can't lie, right? Because it's the same.
So we can check the consistency. Okay.
Good. Any others, people who want to share? Because again, grading is that thing that you have to do. So no mahasiswa can grade exams. So it has to be by the instructor there.
But can Gradescope, can students have access their marking from the Gradescope, or
yes,
they also can see this what they're marking.
Yes. So they do have. So once you are happy with your grade, you can do publish, and then you can also say if you allow them to ask for a regrade or not. So after you publish, the students will see how you marked it, and they can see their entire exam again. So it is also good for I actually get less emails and questions from the students because the rubric is transparent. They know how it's being used. So you like out of when 400 students or sometimes 100 students, I would just get 5 regrade requests and I finish them in like an hour. Usually they don't get it back. They just want to complain. But yeah, there's less emails and students are quite happy with it. Yes, Mbak Kisha, did you have a question?
Yes, Ardina. Sorry, I think because I'm doing 2 things at a time. Can I see like the format of your
Sorry.
exam, like the essay exam that you submitted for grading into grade scope? Like, I would like to see like the answer sheet that you have.
Let's try. Did I? Let me see. I just want to let me unshare
or the
share my
previous
screen real
one
quick.
Because I was wondering because right, how do I put this? So yeah, well, at least for my classes, like I mentioned, I always make a rubric assessment whenever I grade the exams. But then our answer sheet is like a blank paper.
Yep.
You know, so everyone can choose whichever questions they wanted to answer first. So I was
Oh, I see.
how do we make use of this great scope if we have such, you know, maybe, I mean, do we need like a standardized answer sheet in order to utilize this great scope? That's one question.
So,
yeah, and the second one would be because again,
or maybe should I answer it first so that I don't forget, and then you can ask another question. So this is an example of an essay that I ask to students. So you can kind of see, right? It's in an essay sort of format. And the students just kind of push this up in the PDF. What's important is actually this edit outline. So in the edit outline, and this is how the essay is, like you need to do, well, there's a presentation. Oh, I'm forgetting what this is. Oh, they have to this. Okay, so it's an economic analysis write-up. So this is the prompt. And what I do is I can create the outline for this. So I can say like, I'm going to grade like 6 components of the essay, something. And then once the outline is done, GradeScope is going to allow me to, I'm going to focus on question 2. So I can look at all the essays, but just look at the background and then make a grading that way. For some questions, I'm able to, like, once you have an outline, you can make a box. So maybe if question 1, you make a box, and they have to answer it there, it will find that box each time. But you don't have to. You can also not create boxes, and then you just manually flip the pages on the screen. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
So
because it's a little abstract.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like, so you have the question sheet and the answer sheet on the same sheet, right? Like student
You can, yeah.
Or
But
can
the
we
one that I show you,
Uh-huh.
the one that I show you, there is no question sheet. They just gave me the answer.
Okay. Even
yeah.
with the handwriting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe another questions. I don't know whether it applied to your courses or not. Like the first one that you showed us, like so this AI is based on the keyword, I'm guessing, like how do they mark the exams, right? But sometimes with the essay questions, like yeah, in my rubric I always put you need to find this keyword like for other lectures, but sometimes students use different words, but actually that's the key
Ah.
word I'm looking for.
Oh, I see.
So you see what I mean?
Yes.
I
Well,
couldn't
yeah.
think of any example right now, but it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, an increase
I
in
think
inflation.
grades, yeah.
Yeah, something like
Sorry, continue.
yeah, like maybe increase in inflation, they not using inflation as the word, but prices, like increase in price, like just some kind of rough example. Something
I
like
see.
that.
So those type of answers where you do have to look at like a lot of words, Gradescope is not very good at that. So you do have to read it still. But stuff like this where like give a chemical name, and then let's say you want a group and it's a text fill in blank, like it's better at this type, because then it's trying to find like a particular word. But if it's like a sentence and you're looking for like a word, the AI won't. I think you still have to read it, unfortunately. Okay. Good. Other questions? But you guys can look at this on your own.
Follow up is, you said that students can see how we mark them, but they see other students marking, or they can only see their own.
They can only see their own marking. So they do see a rubric. Sometimes you can choose to say, don't give the rubric to the students. So they'll just see the points, or like they just see the final score. But I usually allow the students to look at the rubric in each question. So one of the reasons why my students don't complain too much is because they see the rubric also. So they don't know how the other students are being marked, but they see the other types of numbers that are possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you can see here, out of the 20 groupings, it managed to get 3 groupings. So we can look, they got nitrate. I think this is okay. Confirm. This one all correct, confirm, different ways. I feel like this is like the same person writing the same thing. And then you just grade it by group. So this is correct. It's going to give everybody in the same group correct. So you see it took like 2 minutes to grade that question. But okay, good. Last minute questions before we go ahead. But I hope we spent a lot more time on that, but I hope that is helpful, because again, grading is the big key. Not everybody is using Gradescope right now, even at Yale. So the econ business school classes, they're very big. And they learned about this just now too, and is starting to sort of, we need to use Gradescope, because I'm not good. This is just too much of a pain. But okay, last session of the day. And it's about active learning. And I do have an activity at the end that relates to active learning. Let's see if we can have enough time to sort of do it. So it's interesting because in your syllabi, you have student-centered learning, right? It's somewhat a very similar concept. But active learning, it's talked a lot here in the US. Has everyone sort of heard this term before? Who kind of like give me a signal if you have heard the term active learning before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the big things that people are pushing are different active learning strategies, right? So because your syllabi has a lot of student-centered learning, my guess is that there potentially are a couple of active learning strategies that you are using as well. So what I want to do today is kind of sort of 3 things, like just a reminder for maybe those who haven't seen the definition of active learning before, what active learning is, I'm going to give you some example active learning strategies. And then at the very end, I also wanted to, we'll see if we have time or not, just share you this thoughts I have about setting up a discussion environment, or an example that I have from my previous class, because engagement was something that came up multiple times yesterday. But okay, so that's kind of the plan today. There's actually a lot of active learning strategies. Maybe just to start, can you write in the chat what type of active learning strategies you think you are using? Just so we can kind of see what the landscape is in the department. I don't see. Maybe I need the names, the names of the strategy of the active learning for somebody to put in something. Okay, let's do this. Short video on YouTube related to certain topics and ask students to discuss in class. Thank you, Pak Reman, for sharing. You know, I used to not use YouTube or videos. And then last year I finally used like a couple, and then some students really like them. And I was like, okay, fine. So they do like them. Yeah. But in the past I tried to not to, but then I was like, I give up. Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to say?
Particularly, I thought about I teach about the game theory. Sometimes the main problem in understanding the game theory is about the interpretation of the mixed strategy. Now, how to do that, you know, and then you know, watching YouTube will be much easier. Some question, you know, some case in there, and then we can say this is what I call mixed strategies. Okay, the pure strategy, that kind of stuff. Because sometimes it's a bit difficult to what is that? To understand about the mixed strategy itself.
Yeah, no, good. Pak Gilang uses questions after a couple of slides and then call for volunteers. Bu Eni likes to use activities such as poster presentations. Poster presentations. Oh, Mbak Kisha, trigger students. What is trigger students? Or trigger questions?
Trigger questions, yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. What is a trigger student? Okay. So later on, I will have a slide. It's not a slide, it's sort of a list of the different types of active learning strategies, because it is a lot. I definitely have not used all of them. Some of them probably are not necessarily a good fit for my class, but I wanted to share them with you because if you are creative, maybe that's something that you could use as well. So, definition of active learning. Students must do more than just listen, right? They must read or write, discuss, or be engaged in solving a problem, whether that through videos or just some more thinking, right? It can't just be listening. So they have to be actively involved and engage in higher order thinking, task, as analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Okay, I'm going to put the other definition here because it's much shorter. So active learning implies that students are engaged in their own learning. So similar to student-centered learning, active teaching strategies have students do something other than take notes or follow directions, placing the responsibility of learning squarely on the student. So I think that's kind of the goal that you sort of want. So a couple of examples of active learning strategies, and I want to say that active learning strategies does not necessarily need technology. So I have a slide of examples without technology and slides with technology. So I mentioned this yesterday, just the fact that you ask the students to talk with the person next to them and then just think about what their how to answer your discussion question, that's already active learning. Think, pair, share activities, I found them increase engagement a lot because if you ask directly, they don't want to, they like diam dulu. It's like here, when I ask a question, I'm like diam dulu. But if they talk with their peers, they know what they're going to say, and then you again have more people answering. Sometimes, again, these are non-tech active learning strategies. You can make students do a 1-minute paper. For example, at the start of class, students write down major points that they can remember from the previous class. And then, or at the end of class, they can do the same. I know when we think about engagement and participation, it's an engagement like a discussion with us. With the teacher or with their peers. But when we mean by active learning is they need to process or synthesize everything that they've heard. So just the act of writing something down or trying to understand what they just heard, that's also part of active learning because they're thinking. You can ask them afterwards what they wrote, but even if you don't ask them afterwards, they're responsible for some of the like thinking that's happening in class. If you pause and just ask for clarification, again, that's also active learning. Teachers don't do this a lot, and sometimes I always forget to do this. Just pause, and you can pause longer. Like I've been told by some people, like pause for a minute or two for students to collect questions. Because we would just say like, oh, do you have any questions? Nope, let's go. And then we move on. But if you can actually pause longer, it sometimes is very helpful for them to, again, think and process, right? Yeah. And again, you can also have interactive activities that students can work on something without any tech. So even like give them 3 minutes to do the problem on the board by themselves. That's active learning. So I'm very sure every one of you have done some of these like low-key activities in your classroom at one point. You might just not notice that you were doing this, but it helps to break your lecture up. This is just one example that I did for my class. I make them, this is, I guess, kind of tech in a way. I make them look at a table of the paper and tell me what they think about this table. So this is an interesting paper about, like, in the US, we use income-based poverty measurements. But this paper says what happens if we use consumption-based poverty measurements. Are the people who get the income versus the consumption one the same type of people? And so I make them look at the table for 3 minutes and then we discuss. And they usually, again, very low key. You can choose any paper for your class and do something similar. Okay, so I should pause. Questions on low-tech active learning strategies. Okay, Bob Bagus mentioned in the end that he likes to make mini surveys to talk with the students. That's a good segue to technology to aid in active learning. So polling is sort of done. For those of you who use polling or surveys, what type of software do you use or website do you use?
I use Mentimeter.
Okay, Mentimeter. Bu Eni, is Menti still free in your class? Because now for mine it's getting difficult. I wonder if it's
Yeah, but
just
they limit the number of slides, so maybe just 2 slides, and then we can like reuse it again.
Okay. But do you have this limit on the number of participants, like 50 people a month?
Yeah, as far as I use in my class, there is still okay with my students. Maybe
Oh, okay.
of my student is up to 40. So
Okay.
yeah, in my experience, the maximum student is 40. So I'm fine with Menti.
Okay. Okay. No, it's a problem with me because I think I used to pay and then I don't want to pay anymore. And I think they figured out that I don't want to pay anymore. So now they're restricting my access for me to pay. And I was like, okay. So Menti, any other
I use
softwares that
simple
people
one,
use?
Google Form, because I tend to bring my class to be more research based. So because
You need to collect.
is this whatever we collect, then we show this on the screen. So because we don't put names, so that they can say things, whatever we try to collect, and from this, so we always with mini survey, we always end up by analyzing their their opinion or whatever it is. So by this, then try to engage stuff into the context. But we always bring whatever the case, but we have to break this and I always persuade them to know this is how we make analysis based on the data. Yeah, that's maybe I'm traditional people try to be try to bring this we bring to the modern research things, but because that come into more context. Even so, I didn't teach them, let's say, research methodology, but in a way they say, oh, this is research methodology, this is this is statistic, this is in fact my subject is macroeconomics, but I say, okay, this is how people do. This is my subject is econometrics, but this is what other subjects do. So when you deal with this subject, so you can connect this class with other courses.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that's traditional at all. I think what you're doing is quite advanced, which is great. And yes, I was going to mention it is about sort of trying to make those connections. So Google Forms is very helpful for that as well. Others, so we have Menti, we have Google Forms.
My friends use Peer Deck.
Oh, use what? Sorry, Bueni?
Peer Deck, yeah.
Oh, Peer Deck. I've never heard of that. I should take a look. So there's a lot of ways. I've heard some people use SurveyMonkey. I don't know how, but they use SurveyMonkey. At Yale, we have a subscription to Poll Everywhere. I don't like it as much as Menti, but it's a free option for us. And it's also free for under like X amount of students. I used Poll Everywhere yesterday for your workshop. Slido is something that you can put into Google Slides. So I used it this morning to create that word table or word cloud there. I've heard people use Kahoot too, but I don't really like it. Well, I don't know too much about it. But so there's a lot of options if you do want to try to do polling in your classrooms. And it's all based on preferences.
I did use Kahoot, but this is not for my student but one time during the COVID, I was asked to train that's quite large. 850 senior staff at OJK. Then we do this online.
Okay. That's very large.
For the fun suggestion, but maybe I don't know. For the course, I'd rather not use Kahoot because more on the fun, just gaming. But we use that. This we have to pay this.
I see. Yeah. So if you like to experiment, there's a lot of different options for you to just do pollings. Like I do simple pollings, just like a multiple choice, like what Pak Gilang does as well. There's group note-taking that you can do. I gave you an example of how that looks like in Google Slides. I've used OneNote, and I've used Slack before, and OneNotes and Teams. It requires a lot of organization, but you can do this as well. I'm going to give you a group note-taking activity at the end or after this too, in a bit, so you can kind of have a feel of what that looks like. There's also a lot of very nice websites that you can have students make concept maps. If you like concept maps or want to force them to do concept map activity, like this is another way to go. Oh, so in this is related to the large lecture teaching. One of the chapters in that book of the book that I showed you earlier in the morning talks about this instructor where all of her assignments, except for the exams, are concept maps. So I don't know how she does this, but she makes her students like submit concept maps. And the way she grades is she looks for key words. She looks for gaps in the line. But she found that it helped her students study better. The students find it hard to do the assignment, but if you're creative, you can actually do something like that. So, and it's a STEM class, so, you know, it was very interesting that she do this.
Is it concept map similar to, I mean, exactly the same thing with mind map or something different?
Yes, it's similar, or it's the same. So in a
yeah, but because I have used this mind map for quite a long time, and but not for my class, but for my own
for your own studying.
But then I learned that not everyone good at mind map, because
it's hard.
If mind map needs stability of someone to put this into, you know, putting things into context and make the order, make the, you know, the relation between this. It's not easy. Most of them make the mind map as, you know, table of content, which is not the case. I mean, it's actually not something totally different, but, you know, there are many cases, maybe in my experience, less than, you know, if you bring 100 people, maybe less than 50 people can write mind map properly.
Yeah. No, I kind of think that way too. So I was surprised, and if you are interested, I could I was trying to find that book online to share, but I couldn't find an online version. But she has examples of the type of mind map that she asked from her students. I think it's like a solar systems class or something. And I don't know how she does it. And that was a large class too. It was like 100 students, but she tried it. For my class, I also I haven't tried a mind map exercise from my class, but people do it, and there's software for students to do it. Yeah, in some of the resources above, like they give you example mind map softwares. They're fun, but I don't know how to use it yet. Okay, this is just if you haven't used Google Forms, like this is just an example from my class. I think I was teaching them it was a lecture about Thaler and Kahneman, and how sometimes people are not necessarily rational in their lottery choices. And so this is just coming from like a behavioral econ book. They submit like lottery choices, and then we analyze it together using Google Forms. And Pak Bagus gave his example, which was really nice, of collecting certain data. And then you take the Google Form answers, put it into like Stata or an Excel sheet, and then analyze it. Okay. I put this here because it's such an interesting activity. Maybe some of you have tried this before. Has anyone tried VCon Lab?
I think Mas Rian has been using Vicon Lab for his courses before. He's not here, unfortunately. I think Pak
Okay.
Iman has been used this before in the past, no?
Whatever.
No, the Vicon Lab. I think Mas Rian has been using this for his experimental economics course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for some of you, Badian unfortunately is not here to share, but for some of you who is interested in trying to find like a particular example where you can get the students to play a particular game, Vicon Lab have so many experiments that you can have the students play online. So I've taught an entire class with all of these experiments. But I've also, like in principles of macro, I've once did which one of the experience? Like a market experiment in like the discussion section. So not in the main class, but they did it in like a smaller discussion section with their mentor, and they found it pretty fun. So I just want to.
Actually, Ariel Rubinstein has in his webpage on running some of the experiment. You know, you can use it for your student to play around, but of course you need to register, and then they will they will record the result as well. And I think it's worked for a few years. Well, I think it was since 1999 or something that he pioneered this work. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't heard about that one. This one is Charles Holt's website.
Charlie Holt's, yeah.
But yeah, I guess they're behavioralists, so this is all that they do. But this is free, so it's kind of nice. Okay, last thing that I want to mention has to do with flipped classrooms. It's an option if you are interested. And there are examples of flipped classrooms for large classes. So Yale, for example, the business school, I don't remember what class, but there's one classroom that he does flip. So what a flipped classroom means is that you make the students do like the traditional lecture stuff outside of class, and class time is purely for activities and discussion. So maybe you can have a video or reading about the lecture material, and they have to do that before class. And when you do come to class, all you do is like activities, case studies, or prepare. Has anybody here have done a flipped classroom before for a particular topic, maybe?
I heard that someone doing that, but then to my, I heard that, someone teaching the class and, divide the students into several groups. Then, let's say that there will be 14 weeks. Then they divided the student to 12 weeks. Then he only first week he did the lecture, and the last week also delivered the lecture. Then the other 12, that student will deliver the subject. But
the student
might be, I don't know, but I don't find this is fit for my subject, because
you need
if it is like more advanced class, like implementing the subject. Otherwise, students just they don't know what they are doing. So because we just give them reference, give them split the subject. I don't know, but maybe I don't know. I don't dare to try this into my class. I only dare this, and on the week 7 and 14 they present their case as a group. That's the only thing I dare to do, because other thing that we need to make sure that students have to have the good, let's say good, the hardcore understanding about the topic itself. Otherwise, they might have to loosen understanding about the concept or the whatever.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. Bagisha, do you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think in my experience, it's kind of hard to apply it in like basic theoretical courses, but I think my like development economics class kind of applied this flipped classroom in a sense that so before the start of the next chapter, like I gave them that trigger questions and they have to kind of read of course read the chapter like it or not, so that in the class it's more because the theory itself, there's nothing like basic theory, it's all applied theory, and it's kind of boring if we just kind of discuss the theory in Todero. So it's always about, okay, what did you get from your data findings or from like the trigger questions discussions, as mostly the trigger questions is asking about the data, like latest trend or latest issues related to the chapter that we're going to discuss in the class next week, like the week after. So in the class, it's more like we do discuss the theory, but in a sense that relating to their findings. So it's not only the theory, because there's nothing like basic theory, is all applied. So I was like kind of focusing on how the applications of the theory in terms of the data or the issues in development, like in recent developing countries issues. So I don't know whether it's a full flipped classroom, because I attended like in Ashley, I think I mentioned there was like a presentation regarding this experiment in flipped classroom and how they made a paper of it, right? So so I was thinking, like,
So what was the result?
The result was positive for for that paper, but the thing is they use different samples. That's like one of my critics, because they split the first 7 weeks and the 4 months and the next 4 months, but it's different batch, so it's not actually the same batch. We have 14 weeks, but I never kind of did an experiment where I split or randomly split like 7 sessions, the lecture based, and 7 sessions the flipped classroom, because again, I think I'm focusing more on students' approach into the applications of the development issues. So maybe it's not a perfect type of flipped classroom, but I applied that more in my development economics class.
Well, it's good that you tried. It seems like there's a couple of people who have tried.
But there's lots of critics as well.
I know.
You see, the before class is like the painful stuff, where you have to kind of encourage students. This is why you need to kind of read and do stuff in the class. That's something that's new. Like, like students are very much kind of relied on lecture base, so sometimes they did not expect it's going to be flipped classroom. So
so I did wrote in the slide, the research on flipped classrooms are mixed. So for some people it is a positive experience, like some instructors it was helpful, and for other instructors it did give a negative result. So I think keep that in mind. It seems like it worked under certain scenarios, but it doesn't work in some. In Michigan, I think we had like it's a physics class that was flipped. And it worked really well, but I managed to look at the course structure. It was very, very well designed from start to end. A lot of thought put into it. And he had a bunch of teaching teams to help monitor students too. So it can work. It could be done very well, but it seems that it's a lot of work to organize it very well. Okay. So I wanted to do an active learning activity, and I want to give you 10 minutes to do this, and then we can kind of discuss. The type of activities that I mention or strategies that I put here is not the only type of active learning. So if you could go to, I'll write it here, bit.ly UGM active learning, you will see a document, and I will go to that document too. And I want us to do, so this is not a group discussion. Maybe later it'll be a group discussion. But this is just like an individual reflection time. So I want to give you individual reflection time to look at a list of all active learning strategies. And I do want to thank the Yale Purview Center for providing me with all of these activities. You can read them. And I want you to challenge yourself a little bit. Pick one that you think might be interesting to try. I mean, you don't have to actually try it, but just sort of hypothetically, like maybe this is a very interesting thing to do for this topic. And I want you to highlight that particular one and just write down kind of what you want to do with it. So I'm going to give you time to think about this, 10 minutes. Hopefully everybody writes something, and then we can kind of just read and sort of see and discuss what people's ideas are. Okay. So questions on what the task is? Good. So it's 10:26. You can shut down your video if you want. And I'll pop back up like 10:36. And then we'll look at the document together. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. And while you do this, I'm going to prepare a website that I accidentally closed to show you when we come back. Okay, so it's about 10 minutes, but I'll give you 2 more minutes just to write up any of other thoughts that you might have, and then we'll see the different comments that people have. Let me give you 2 more minutes until 10:40. Okay, so it's 10:40. Let's all come back. If you still want to put things, like, go ahead. But maybe we can just discuss it as a whole and sort of see what people are commenting on. So Pak Bagus also mentioned in the chat some of the things that he did. Let me see. Let me read it real quick. Okay, so Pak Bagus has done a couple of these activities. Okay, interesting. But you just from this document, you can see like so many different types, and some of these are probably not like for my class. Some of these I can't even figure out how to do these activities, but at least you know, or at least can expose yourself to some of these different things. Let's look at some of the comments a little bit. I saw some comments, not just this one, but people commenting on kind of, or starting to think about the difficulties in doing a particular type of method. And you are right that some of these methods work for some type of students. So this person said mature learners would be better in this, like younger learners without the advanced knowledge, it's going to be hard to do some case studies. So Pak Gilang mentioned that he is using Think, Pair, Share in his education economics class. So this activity would be useful when students are presented with an outcome in mind. That's a good, so yes. So I like how you're everyone's also commenting on when it would be appropriate or how to use this effectively. There's an interesting comment from Kisha about she tried fishbowl, which is so interesting because I haven't met anybody who tried fishbowl from economics. So it's interesting that you've tried and you found that it didn't work. Well, would you say that it didn't work because people just agree?
Because well, the thing with observer, they're supposed to kind of give constructive feedback, right? With what the inner group is doing, or at least add some more values. But I think like students just, I think I'm still like actually applying it, but like in a bigger group of observer, because when I put like a 3 or 4 for the inner and 3 or 4 for the observer, and then the reverse rule, I think Indonesian students feels like, oh, if I give like feedback, and they will also like feedback for students are like critics, you know, like for Indonesian students, not feedbacks, but critics. But like the main point for fishbowl is you give constructive feedback, like you add points, right? Okay, this is my findings, but I think it's different from my finding. Like the inner group's findings are different from our group's findings. Like that's what they're supposed to do, because in advance, like I mentioned, they already prepared their own stuff. So it's like I'm planning for them to kind of exchange ideas. Okay, let's see what the inner group are gonna say, and then you can have your say after that, after observing. But they end up being, oh, the presentation was great, their findings was great. Like, okay, they're just
Everything's good.
pleasing each other, afraid that when they reverse the role, they will be criticized, as in like quote unquote criticized. Whereas feedback is not criticism. Feedback, like you into the discussion. But yeah, that's some sort of the things like. But I'm still I'm still doing it in a sense that, well, it's more like the mentality, I think, Ardina, but that doesn't mean I have to stop like making change. It's just like I'm getting two of the students' habits.
Getting better, yeah.
Okay, like no, it's not that I'm looking for you to please your friend. That's not gonna influence your score as well. But instead, I'm looking for, okay, what can you add into the discussions of the inner group? And it's not about criticism. Yes, you're going to reverse role, tapi bukan berarti when you reverse role, they're gonna hit you gitu loh. It's just like the habit, see, Ardina. So at the beginning, it's gonna be hard. Like the first 2 weeks for the first groups, it's going to be an adjustment to kind of tell the student feedback is not criticism. Yes, you're going to reverse role, but yeah, that's the point. That's the point. Sometimes you just have to be the reviewer, not always being the one who's being assessed gitu. Jadi making them the assessor itu kayak mereka ketakutan, because if I assess my friend gitu. Jadi kayak apa ya, kayak revenge gitu. So yeah, that's a challenge sih, tapi I'm sticking to my
Yeah. No, that's so cool that you're doing this. I do want to try it. Maybe one day if you're doing it in class and I'm in Indonesia, I would like to see how it's done. Because I don't know how. I've never done fishbowl before. So good. Let me see. Let me update this to see if we have more stuff. Bu Effie, do you want to share what you just wrote in the comment? The 1 minute papers. Hello.
I mentioned that in the start one class, we use slide that contain question after the material, and on the next slide before we moving on to the next subchapter. So it's easy methods to make sure student understand the chapter.
Yeah, so I actually do find that for stats, basic econ, where they are learning, like I do a lot of large classes use this, and it's just great. It's like simple, and you give student time, and it really helps them. Great. I'm not sure who this one is. More fun and effective, but need more time of preparing. Yes. I was thinking that this might be interesting. Role playing might be interesting, but I can see so many issues implementing this. Okay. The last comment here I have from Bueni, think, pair, share in the labor class. Oh, so these are poster presentations. Okay. Oh, so Bueni, this is also this is I think much bigger than a think, pair, share, but you have students criticize and give feedback to each other. Have you find it did it work well? Just trying to compare it from Bakisha's experience of students criticizing each other.
Yeah, I compare with the student presentation individually, because when student present individually, then other student will talk each other. They will not focus with what the student present. Then I change the method by using this poster presentation. I divided the class into several groups, and then I give each group with the different topics. For instance, supply of labor, demand of labor in group A and group B, and other topic for the other groups. And then they will write the different topic, even though they got a similar topic about the supply of labor, but they will present different story of supply of labor. So for group A, then they will present the poster around the classes, and then other group will shopping around, and they will try to find what should be improved in each paper, and then they will discuss in a small group with their group. And after that, I will invite them to give the feedback to the group which presents the poster at that day. And I think this work because the student will think and they will try to give the feedback individually, because I force each student to speak to other group rather than student as the representative, something like
I
that.
see.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that seems very nice. I do also like the fact that by making it flexible in a sense that students can choose their topics a little bit different and shop around. I guess students like it when they're given a more autonomy, right, of their learning. So yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. I think it's not think, pair, share, but I think it's a much bigger active learning strategy that you're doing. But good. I hope from this exercise you can kind of see just the different types of things that you can do. If you want to, I think you also recognize that depending on what you choose to do, some of them are a lot of work, and who knows if it's useful or not. But some of them, even though they're challenging, could bring out certain things from your students that they could learn, such as giving feedback. So at least you know, and if you want to try them, you can come back again. I have one more example for you, and it has to do with, so this activity that we were doing is like a group annotation of text. So this is an active learning strategy as well, select a text for a group to annotate. And then a student could write down comments on that particular text. And then later on, you can even encourage them to reply to each other's post. You can have them do this in class or do this before class. And then hopefully during class, you can talk about these comments in a discussion form. So this might, this is what we did, but I want to give you an example of how I do something like this for my class. So a software that maybe you can try as well, I'm not sure if there's a free version or not, but maybe there are softwares that are similar. So I use Perusal, and Perusal allows you to upload like a chapter, and then students can annotate on that chapter. So I'm trying to be careful here to also make sure I don't show students' names, but you can also sort of see, like this is for one of my assignments, there's 173 comments. There's only like 20 students in this class, so they were very, very active. They ask questions, and then there's 223 unanswered questions. There was too much. I couldn't answer all of the students' questions, but I tell them that they could answer each other's question. So this one was a World Bank report. I say, the first pages of the report examine historical patterns of key growth drivers, highlight and comment on how these patterns would be useful for policy recommendation. And I give them a couple of options and then they can choose. So let me see. So you can see this is the actual assignment. You can click on something, and I think it doesn't show the name, it just shows like a picture. You can see like the different things that they comment on, and they can see what their friends comment on and say things as well. So it's a very nice tool if you want to do this kind of exercise in class or outside of class. Okay, so we do have 8 minutes left. I could talk a little bit about discussion, but I think because we only have 8 minutes, I just want to open it to the floor to see if there's any questions or comments on sort of everything that we've sort of discussed or reflections, rather than just starting another topic. I think you guys got I lecture too much. So please, thoughts, reflections, or comments or questions that you have.
Do you have an evaluation from your students, like for each semester, and then sometimes students give the feedback to the lecturer? Do you have the kind of that?
Yes, we do have that so in Yale, students, before they can see their grades, a question is going to pop up like, please fill out this evaluation. So we have very high evaluation.
Is it quantitative or qualitative, Ardina?
It's both quantitative and qualitative. So we do have a score for like how the students felt the courses overall, how engaged they are, but then we do have qualitative feedback. So that's why I know the feedback of some students saying like, I didn't learn anything from this class. But you also find, so that was an interesting, I had one evaluation that was so interesting because there's students who really love the class and then students who really hate the class. It was like a bimodal distribution. But
is it the same class?
The same class. And this is the class that I told you that historically it has had very mixed or bad reviews. So last year when I started to be, it takes time. So I had to build, it took two times to sort of really build the class to make it better. But then last semester, you can see that the evaluations are up. And you can see students saying, so one student was commenting saying, I don't know why other students in the past said this is a bad class. I didn't understand it. It was fine to me. So you can see, so in Yale, which is interesting because Michigan didn't do this, Yale allows students to see the evaluations. So students can actually see your evaluations and already make judgments about you before taking the class, which is like a bad idea, I think. But this is how they choose classes as well. My class is required, so they have to take it anyway.
Do you mind if can we see the form of the questionnaires?
Sure.
Because
I can share it with
here
you.
in Gajah Mada, there is a change the evaluation from quantitative, qualitative to being the quantitative. So we cannot get the comment from the students.
Oh, I see. What if I have to look for it now, but I'll send it to you by email.
Yes, yes,
And
thank
you
you.
can share it to some of the others. Okay, sounds good. Other questions?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Me.
Mhm.
So I'd like to thank you with this class. That's really interesting. So I appreciate this. I have to be honest that I don't join, this kind of things very often. But this time, yeah, I don't know, just instinct that
Oh,
I
no.
took class. I appreciate that. It's really interesting class. And then I learned, oh, actually, I do this by I just do it. I don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just,
you're yeah. Mhm.
So, but it's really good. So putting the context because actually I deliver big training for professional purpose. This client is high level professional, but then I just do. But for my class, so again, so as I mentioned yesterday, that earlier my class was terrible because I assumed that student has the basics, and now they got frustrated because they don't know what I was talking. But then now I changed to be, whenever I start my class or the topic, then I try to connect with the previous class. It helps. So my feedback from students also improving in the several years because in the past, they assess you, that's like, as you mentioned, that they assess you very bad because, they don't understand what I was talking about. But now they say, this is connect to their to the future, to the daily life. So they see things that this semester I have one student email me asking, in the transparency, then I email her, this is your mark if you want to see me free, but she decided not to see me. It's okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But again, this is really good things, but we learn things. So yeah. I personally appreciate this, but I don't know because I joined this bit late. So if you have shared it or you haven't shared it, I'd like to see the the presentation. Maybe I can read follow up with the reading. The reference that you use. That maybe I start to learn more methodological matter. But again, thank you so much.
No, thank you for participating. And I'm happy to hear, because I think there's so much expertise, and as teachers, you are all trying to improve your teaching bit by bit. So just hearing that you're recognizing that you're doing some of these things, and so you can actively use them, and makes me happy, and I have gained a lot of benefit from just taking all of these workshops too. So I want to share it. One other thing that I want to say about evaluations, though, to be careful, we have a lot of research here in the US saying that evaluations can be very biased, and they actually don't really. Sometimes it's not about how much they learn, it's more about the experience in the class. So just because you have very bad evaluation, it doesn't necessarily mean the students aren't learning. Sometimes you really just annoyed them and you got bad marks. So things to keep in mind if you are moving to a different evaluation system. But okay, thank you so much, everyone, for participating. I hope it was helpful. I will send Bu Eni the slides and resources. And if you do have questions, feel free to email me or say hi. I'll probably say hi if I come to Jogja and see you all in person.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ardina.
Thank you.
Round of applause to Mbak Ardina.
Yeah,
thank you.
Applause. That's really
Thank you so much. You guys were great.
Thank you. So
good.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian. Kita akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you.
Good luck with classes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you too.
Bagus.
Matur nuwun.